Hello and welcome back to Handheld Computing. Today we're going to have a look at the first of the Windows line in terms of this, the Fujitsu Siemens P1610. So this is a convertible laptop, as we'll see in a moment, and you could say it wasn't handheld, but actually if you add this bump case, it's definitely a handheld, and it was really designed for that market. So let's get into it. As you can see, the screen resolution is relatively high compared to other notebooks of this size. There's no optical drive, but even in 2006, I think we could see that optical drives were starting to become redundant with increasing use of USB sticks, streaming and cloud services. Let's have a look at the hardware itself. So, on the left side, we've got the PC card slot and the wireless on-off button. This switches on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. You can't separate them, it's all or nothing. Moving to the back, we've got the vent, and we've got a modem connector, Ethernet connector, and a sub-D port for connecting to a VGA monitor. Round on this side, we've got the two USB ports, the power input, a microphone, headphone, and SD card slot. And we've also got the slot for the stylus, which pops out, it's sprung, and it's got a sprung tip to protect the screen. So we'll pop that back in there. At the front, there's nothing to see, just the battery itself. I've got the smaller 3-cell battery, the 6-cell just sticks out a little bit more. Underneath, we've got the battery catches for removing the battery. There's access to the RAM door, maximum is 1 gig, although it is possible now to get a 2 gig chip that'll go in there. On the other side, this is the door that accesses the hard disk drive. It's got a 1.8 inch hard drive in there. Down at the bottom, we've got the connector for the optional port, and we've got some lovely bits of felt on the bottom to stop it from burning your knees if you're using it as a laptop. Opening it up, we can see the keyboard. It's actually a very nice keyboard to use. The keys have got plenty of play. It's got a nipple mouse with the buttons here and here. Obviously, no room for a trackpad on such a small device. On the left-hand side, sorry, I'll just bring your attention to this. So, it suggests that this is Windows Vista compatible. I think with a gig of RAM and a 1.2 gigahertz processor, that's pushing it a bit. But perhaps we'll look at that in a later date. The audio, it comes out just under the monitor. There's only one speaker, it's not stereo. There's a couple of indicators for your caps lock and things. We'll spin this round and then we'll have a look at the screen itself. So on the bevel for the screen, we've got the microphone hole, we've got a fingerprint sensor, and we've got a couple of buttons, so we'll just log in. There we are. So this is down and left, up and right, and then we've got some function keys. Oh, we just rotated the screen, that's fine. Then we've got some function keys, so if we press the function key and A, we get the calculator pop-up. And if we press the function key and B, we get the Microsoft Jotter pop-up. These are standard, you can alter them later. There's a rotation key, so we can flip the screen around. It'll go through all 4 rotations. And there's an Alt key. It doesn't do anything on its own, but pressing and holding does bring up the task menu. So if you're having issues, you can always shut it down using that. Up at the top, we've got a button that dims the backlight, so that actually turns the backlight off. In this light, it's hard to see, but if I put a brighter light over, you can see the screen is actually still on. And outdoors, it would be visible. And I'll show you that later. Pressing function, and that puts it in power saving mode. We've got the indicator for the battery, for the hard drive, and the power switch. So we're going to flip it this way. Just want to show you the Fujitsu menu. So we'll flip the screen round till it's facing the right way. There we go. And so on here, Fujitsu have included a menu. Let me just pop the stylus out of its silo. The Fujitsu menu basically gives you access to all the things you might want while you're in tablet mode, but obviously don't have a keyboard to access. So we can easily swap to the control panel. And we can also swap easily to the tablet PC keyboard. It's pretty horrible to use, but it is there, that's fine. Next up, we've got tablet and pen settings. So this allows you to select all the different options, and there's a calibrate option as well. Then we've got our direct brightness control app. This is the same as the tablet and pen settings. As you'll see, it's just brought it up, and of course there's the dim and bright screen option on there. That's okay. Quick access to the audio devices. Quick access to screen and window capture. Organize favorites for your web applications. Power options, printer options, and then the LCD brightness, so we can have it dim. Bringing it back up, of course we can have it bright. Then we can enable and disable the button panel, and then there's the settings for the Fujitsu pop-up itself, so you can choose the items you want on your list and remove any that you don't. Let's talk about the screen. It does have a high pixel density, being only 8.9 inches across, but it's a very glossy screen, which can make lighting difficult. As you can see, the viewing angles are quite poor as well, so you don't have to come off far before you can't see it. It's a transreflective screen, which is very unusual in a notebook, and this means that in direct sunlight you don't actually need the backlight on. And this can be handy if you're working outdoors, as it'll extend the battery life significantly. This battery will run about 3 hours instead of 2 when you're outdoors with the backlight off. Here's the screen in direct sunlight. As you can see, it's actually quite clear, but as soon as we move into the shade between the glossy reflections and the lack of direct light, the screen's nearly impossible. The backlight itself could be brighter in well-lit indoor environments. It often doesn't feel quite bright enough, but that said, it's more than usable. The glossy film is to protect the screen, as is the spring in the stylus, allowing you to use it as a tablet and obviously stop the screen from scratching too easily. So we'll run a crystal benchmark on the disc. And the disc is the original disc, and as such it's very old, and so it's probably wearing out. Let's see what kind of results we get. So as you can see, the disc benchmark scores for this are hardly impressive, but it's not exactly as surprising for a 14-year-old IDE hard disk. So what about the internet? We have to bear in mind that this is now an obsolete operating system, so Google Chrome no longer supports XP. We could try Opera, but the latest version of Opera has a tendency to find dead links and won't open a lot of pages. So as you can see, a lot of the time Opera's not much use either. So I would recommend Mozilla Firefox. However, bear in mind this machine in particular is too slow to run any antivirus software or anti-spyware, and therefore you've got to be very careful about which sites you actually visit, otherwise you may end up with a virus-laden computer that's good for nothing. The other thing to bear in mind is because it is so slow, being 15 years old or nearly 15 years old, even websites like YouTube, you will struggle with video playback. And that's in part because the graphics chip on board just can't play video easily. As you can see, it's quite jerky, a bit glitchy, so yeah, not great. So in terms of internet experience, basic websites are absolutely fine, a bit of searching and downloading, but you're going to need to use Firefox. Internet Explorer we've not discussed, but there's no point discussing that, as we all know. So we do have a touchscreen, which is great, obviously, for drawing programs. It's not pressure sensitive, but still it's nice to be able to just write on the screen. So it's more than capable of doing a little bit of Photoshop. I wouldn't be doing anything too complicated. Can you play games? Yes, of course you can. So here we are, this is Star Trek Elite Force. released in 2000, so it's not exactly a new game. As you can see, it runs quite smoothly. We're in full resolution here, at least the full resolution for this screen. Obviously, on a better system, you could have more. So you can play some older games. Obviously, you're not going to be playing Fortnite on this. It's just not possible. It's a little awkward with the nipple mouse rather than a real mouse. I think I'm probably about to die, so we'll leave it there. And can you do any video editing? There's a question. So VSDC is a free video editor, and they still do, or they still hold, the XP version. So it is possible to do video editing, though I doubt it'll be very quick. So let's add a couple of videos and just see how it copes. As you can see, even playback is a little bit choppy, but it does only have the GMA 900, so it was never going to be easy. As for conversion, I'll plug it in and we'll just see how long that'll take. So we'll go for a low quality to give it a fighting chance. And there we go, export project. We're going to continue because we're using the standard version. And we'll let that run. So there are plenty of more powerful handhelds, better design perhaps, but to be honest I have a soft spot for this one. It's very robust, I've owned it a very long time, but we're going to have a look at some others in the future, including the Libretto W100, which is a very unusual laptop in that it has 2 screens and no keyboard. Anyway, that's for another day. If you've got any comments, please don't forget to write them below. Hit subscribe, press that bell, and if you did like the video, do give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.